dance between them. Two players that we have seen on stream already, and look at them go. It is going to be Andrew Hedrick on the right and Preston Rutledge on the left here. Of course, both playing Dragapult. And as we know now, thanks to these these changes to asymmetrical cut, the higher seed will be able to choose whether they go first or second.
That's true. And they're also able to look with the open deck lists to see what their opponent has brought to the table. So no surprises there. They've had their time to read through. Now they're just going to shuffle up, get their game going. I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out. We've seen both players earlier today on stream winning their matches. Preston is looking for that big finish. This is a top 4. This is a deep run for him compared to some of his past results. On the other hand, Andrew Hedrick, no stranger to the top.
I mean, 4-time regional champion says it all for himself, right? And then, of course, top 32 in Honolulu a couple years ago, but of course the NAIC champion from 2 years ago as well. And we are very quickly approaching that tournament once again. But Andrew, in his own right, is a very decorated player, playing Dragapult with the hammers. And I think a lot of players, and I think we saw on our Dragapult graphic in particular, that Dragapult with the hammers is actually the lowest represented Dragapult deck out of all of our variations that we've seen this weekend. But I was watching Andrew's top 8 match, and his opponent looked him right in the eye as Andrew flipped heads and said, yep, knew that was gonna happen.
Yep. One final note here. Preston has taken down some incredible opponents. His only loss this entire tournament has been to Andrew Hedrick. So this is a rematch for all the marbles. Preston is looking to change that record and dethrone another top player, earn his stripes, get to the finals, and see if he can take that Worlds invite. It's so close, you can almost taste it.
It's very, very true, right? And it's getting to that point in the season where players are really starting to stress out about what the cutoff is going to be for that top 135 Masters that get to punch their way to San Francisco, just a short 5-hour drive from here, believe it or not here. So here we go, getting the prize cards set out right now for both players. So we'll see what exactly has for store here. Now look at Preston's side. That's not too good. Both copies of Duskull currently sitting in the prizes, and a little bit more energy on Andrew's side. Granted, it is a dark energy, but both players prizing 1 fire energy. Nothing too crazy aside from that double Duskull. Not exactly what you want to see if you're Preston.
Absolutely not. Duskull is, and the Dusclops and Dusknoir that go with it, are 2 of your most important resources in the Dragapult mirror. Those cards are able to move you ahead on the prize race very quickly, turn a board that could be favored or even into a board that is strongly on your side. So definitely want to get those out of the prizes ASAP.
Here we go. Welcome to top 4 here of what feels like the Los Angeles Dragapult TCG regionals here. Pokepad, and it will be Preston starting off with the Monkey Dory in the active, as Pokepad is going to allow for that first search here. And Preston about to have this rude awakening that both Duskull, unfortunately, in his list are unable to be used in this game 1 against Andrew Hedrick here. So he's going to have to get a little bit more creative with the routes.
The rest of this deck search, I really like the strategy, choosing to put the energy towards the front to make sure you get that count correctly. Anytime you have a deck with very few energy of a specific type, you want to make sure you know exactly where all of them are. Otherwise, you could Crispin into a deck with no energy, and if you do that, you don't get both energy out of the Crispin, you only get the 1 to your hand. So got to be very careful about it. Still also have to shuffle your deck afterwards.
Feels like Preston is kind of forced to play to kind of pedal to the metal here and getting everything set up right away, even Ultra Balling away Risky Ruins and Lily's Determination here to start to get things moving as well. Both players are playing Risky Ruins, so it's really just kind of this cat and mouse game on who's going to put that stadium down first.
Choosing to keep that stadium in the discard pile is going to mean that Preston can get more DP in play without having to worry about damage counters. That could be relevant in case Preston is not able to attack first with his own Phantom Dive. Andrew on the other side is sizing up the options available depending on how many DP are available. Andrew's probably going to be going for an Itchy Pollen, and all of a sudden Preston is out of items for this next turn.
And that's going to be a little bit rough, too, when you think about how often cards like Pokepad are used to get Dracloaks out and open and ready to go. So has to keep that in mind, but it will just be a pass over unless there is an energy attach, and it is unfortunately just going to have to be the pass. No energy to go with it. Let's see how Andrew's going to start. That's a lot of Dreepy and even the one copy of Dunsparce in the deck as well. This is a great starting hand for Andrew. I just wish there was an energy or even a supporter to go with. Lily's Determination in this hand would not only allow for Andrew to get set up, but be completely set up for next turn as well.
Looks like he's trying to figure out what the best Pokepad target is going to be. Plenty of choices available, and with that Ultra Ball, could go for a Meowth. Meowth would create that opportunity to get a supporter card, but it also puts a 2-prize liability on your bench. So you have to be very careful about when it goes down. Perhaps the later the better, less opportunities for it to get knocked out on a convenient boss's orders.
Going through the deck now, Andrew has a ton of options. Looking at his prize cards, though, now only one copy of that Dratcloak is prized. And while, yes, that is pretty important, I'm looking at more so at one of the Night Stretchers on Andrew's side, just because he's playing a little bit more of that limited recovery. We've seen Dragapult list playing Rosa's Encouragement to kind of make up for some of the ways to get energy back into the deck, but Andrew is only playing these 2 Night Stretchers. He's not even going to have access to both of them this game.
Ooh, that's so rough, especially when every recovery card is going to be another step towards perhaps a Dusknoir, perhaps some other kind of energy recovery. Depending on what you have available, that's exactly how you need to plan out the rest of your endgame board state. So in these early turns, it may not seem as though these late game decisions are even remotely on the players' minds, but you need to be sure that your resources are preserved so that when you need them, you didn't get rid of them earlier.
See how exactly Andrew's going to set up board here. Once again, no energy in hand for the attachment. Does have Budu in the active, though, so it's safe to say that Itchy Pollen will be used this turn. Like you said, could also Ultra Ball for the Meowth if Andrew truly wants to go all the way and then find Lily's Determination off of a last-ditch catch. But really kind of thinking about, and will potentially be using it, discarding the one of Hammer in the hand. Honestly, seeing more cards here is probably more useful.
Yeah, especially if you're going to shuffle your hand into your deck. Crushing Hammer's not useful right now while there's no energy on Preston's side of the field. Missing that attachment definitely hurts, but against a Hammer's deck, it's not a terrible idea to hold those resources in your hand as well.
See how it goes here. 2 Dreepy, or 3 Dreepy, and a Dunsparce, and a Lily's Determination on top. Sequencing from Andrew is looking wonderful here. A fresh 8 cards for Andrew Hedrick now. And still, would love to see an energy attachment, but looking at Preston's side of the board with no Duskull at all, and Andrew's side of the board where his draw engine is now up and ready to use for next turn, and also 3 Dreepy, things are looking a lot better.
There's also a really interesting strategy here where even though the Dreepy were in the hand the entire time, Andrew waited until the last possible minute to put them down. Reason for that is your opponent doesn't know what you have on your first turn until you lay it down. By choosing to take your time, not put the Dreepy in play as soon as you have them in your hand, even if you know you for sure you want them down right now, keeping them towards the very back of your turn means your opponent has less time to think about how to respond to your current board state.
6 cards here, no energy just yet. Finds one right at the last possible second. So that Dreepy will be getting a Psychic Energy. Does have a Pokepad for next turn to find one of the many Dratcloaks that Andrew has available to him. And may even begin to use it now, anticipating maybe an Itchy Pollen back onto Preston's side, coming back over to Andrew's. But look at this first turn from Andrew. He is definitely happy with this one.
Choosing to go with the item use of Pokepad for the Dratcloak, even though you can't play down the Dratcloak going second on your first turn, it requires a turn to wait before you can evolve. Doing so now means that an Itchy Pollen from Preston will not prevent searching out that Dratcloak. Meanwhile, we know that Preston has his own Dratcloak. Bam, there it is, going to start moving this game.
And thankfully, Lily's Determination coming in and giving now Preston a fresh 8 cards to really work with. And what he has to keep in mind is that he is item locked, right? So now he just has to find more Dreepy, has to find the Dratcloaks as well. Still does have a Recon Directive available, but the question is he going to let this Monkey Dory just keep soaking the damage in the active?
Monkey Dory is also going to be a little bit more difficult to retreat than, for example, Budu. You've got to attach your energy to your Monkey Dory, but if you discard it to retreat, then you can't keep using Adrenabrain. So it's a balancing act of what do you want to attach? Do you want to maybe pass? Do you put a Psychic Energy down to retreat with that? It's really up to what resources you get off of this Lilies and this Recon Directive.
I do believe Preston just recon directived into a buddy pop, and unfortunately has to throw it away because cannot use it because under item lock here. But it will be luckily finding another Dracloak off of the Lily's determination here. Does have the Badu if he so chooses to go forward with it. I don't believe there's an energy to retreat, so this Monkey Dory may just have to be stuck here, but that Hilda for next turn can easily allow for him to access his ace spec of Neo Upper Energy.
Neo Upper Energy will fix this attachment problem, and even though it could get hit by a Crushing Hammer, by the time you've got the Neo Upper down, you've already got an attack off with it, so you're able to use that for its maximum mileage by keeping it either in the deck to grab with Hilda or holding it in your hand in a situation like this.
You love to see it. A recon directive into another Dracloak to recon directive again. Does have an energy, but it is a psychic one. It is not a fire one here. So choosing to keep that could potentially get a second Dracloak ready to go next turn. Or just keep using it for potential discard, but still looking for the fire more so than here.
Yeah, there's no reason to use Jet Headbutt and evolve right away because there's nothing with 70 HP on Preston's side of the board to knock out with that attack. Instead, it looks like Andrew's probably going to spend this turn strategizing in such a way to set up the long-term game. Plenty of Dracloak, plenty of options for evolving using Dragapult later, as many attachments as can go down because if Preston's not playing hammers, why not?
Yeah, and the thing is with this Ultra Ball, not only can it grab another Dracloak, but it can also grab the Dunsparce just in case for next turn. This Dunsparce is getting so much mileage by even just looming on the board, knowing that Andrew Hedrick is going to be able to keep sifting through the deck, keep drawing cards here. But I know Andrew is technically looking for a fire energy, but still, finding a Psychic isn't necessarily that bad. Let's see what the two cards are. There it is, that to Dunsparce. And honestly, you just love to see it without any ball search or Pokepad search for it anyway, just being able to go back in to the deck and get everything going online. And honestly, just another itchy pollen from Andrew feels pretty good in this spot.
Yeah, it's definitely going to hold Preston back from getting that board set up the way that he would prefer it be set up. Having 3 empty bench spaces as a Dragapult player is definitely scary, particularly when you know there's no Duskull available for you to grab that way.
I know one fire energy is prized, but having 2 Psychic just doesn't feel too great. Andrew just wants to find that Psychic, or that fire, excuse me, can actually put the Psychic down on another Dracloak just in case for next turn if all things go awry here. So you're guaranteeing yourself another attacker here, but a miss of a fire doesn't feel too good.
No. The other thing too is that choosing to use the runaway draw onto Dunsparce right now means you're going to need to go get it back later. You're still a little bit vulnerable to Unfair Stamp, but that's only once you start taking prizes. For now, it's just going to be a possible issue. Then again, he probably knows by now about the Neo Upper Energy. It's not even an issue, so we don't even need to worry about it.
Didn't get to see the 2 cards off of the Recon Directive, but a Fire Energy was grabbed onto Preston's side. We know now from the previous turn that Preston does have a Hilda in hand, which does allow for Preston to go into the deck and grab one evolution Pokemon and an energy to go alongside of it. But the thing is, this Monkey Dory is still stuck in the active, so would need an energy attachment to get it out of the active spot. There's nothing like a Latias in this deck to move basics around. So it is going to be this Hilda for turn, where you can search a deck for an evolution Pokemon and an energy card. Doesn't have to be just a basic energy, it can be any energy. But look at this, instead of going for the Neo Upper, it's actually just going to be the dark energy, presumably to move that damage counters right back to Badu.
Another thing too is that you could just keep that Monkey Dory in the active another turn. That way the Dracloak on the bench are not extra vulnerable, and you're able to get the most, potentially 2 turns out of that energy attachment. You want to be able to maximize those energy attachments while you have them, while you still have the opportunity, because Andrew will not let them stay on that board.
See exactly where he wants to go here. Preston starting to get a little bit worried here. Even though Andrew doesn't technically have the Dragapult in just yet, this could be a prime time for Andrew to start sifting for boss's orders to take that one fire energy track cloak out of play here. And it won't be the dark energy going onto the Monkey Dory here. It's just going to be the pass back to Andrew Hedrick here. Does have the Dragapult in hand, but look at that hand, right? Could use very well start using these crushing hammers now and just disrupting the board just a little bit, but still just needs this fire energy to really get a going.
Yeah, that's the problem with making sure that you have your attachments down this way instead of putting them on the Monkey Dory. It's one thing to say, yeah, Monkey Dory is going to get all the damage dealt from the potential Dragapult that Andrew is trying to get in play. If that doesn't happen and the Monkey Dory is trapped in the active, then you've lost out a potential turn of moving damage. And you've risked another energy that you want on your field going into the discard, but you're not going to lose it if you get knocked out.
Nothing like using Recon Directive and then going into 2 energy, and neither are the one that you need here. Andrew, still no fire energy, and like we had said, 1 fire in the prizes, 1 Crispin as well for that energy acceleration. But still just not being able to, unfortunately, find anything, cannot launch a Phantom Dive this turn.
If Preston were a little bit more ahead, you could dig with the Unfair Stamp. That's not an option. No prizes have been taken by either player.
It's so rough. We know that Andrew does have a Lily's Determination in hand, but do you want to refresh your massive hand for the potential of getting 1 fire energy? It's not guaranteed. I mean, it's not a bad idea to just use Itchy Pollen over and over again, but it's not looking too crazy because we know that Preston has the dark energy in hand to take the knockout with Adrenabrain again. But look at this, another attachment. This is 3 Drac Cloaks with psychic energy on it. Where is any of our answers to fire?
Guess we're not going to see him. It's a little bit cold in the stadium today. Going to Recon Directive, hopefully get something going. Immediately drops, I'm not sure what that second card was. Looks like Preston knows exactly what the plan for this turn is, and it is get Monkey Dory out of the active by any means necessary. It is preventing attacks. It is not doing anything helpful other than maybe taking some Itchy Pollen damage, but that could be any card doing that.
It's a lot of it's a lot of cards in hand for Preston, and he's going to be using Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain ability to move some damage over to Badu and get on the board first with this knockout, and still can attach for turn and start to launch some of these damage counters on over to Andrew's side of the board. And it's so interesting, right? Andrew, look at his board, right? 3 Drac Cloaks ready to go and no fire energy, and Preston has no access to Duskull. Both of them are still in the prizes, and he's about to evolve into Dragapult first, potentially.
I think the plan there, by moving the damage onto the Badu, was to get that Duskull out of the prizes, hopefully, with 2 out of 6 of those cards being Duskull. Good odds. Unfortunately, that was not what happened right here. Here we are with that retreat. We're not going to see a Dragon Headbutt, but maybe a Jet Headbutt could be in our future.
Will also put down the Dreepy and the Pheasantipity. Risky Ruins, though, does protect Dark-type Pokemon from eating those 2 damage counters there. Can't use any of these items. Might have to be forced to use Hilda again to get a Psychic Energy, or it is just going to be the Jet Headbutt here from Preston, going up 2 prizes in this turn without using Phantom Dive.
It never feels good to attack with Jet Headbutt, even, I mean, unless it's to win the game, in which case you've just won the game. But to have a Dragapult in the active, knowing that you're not doing phantom damage counters onto the bench, knowing that your opponent has 3 Dracloak that are all charged up with just needing a single attachment to get going, if Andrew can make it happen. Ooh!
Wow. A crushing hammer here, and that is going to flip heads. And there goes that fire energy here, too. I think Andrew has a massive turn on the way. The first Recon Directive did give him Crispin, which will allow for him to get the fire energy out of the deck. Does also already have Unfair Stamp as well here, too. So Preston is going to be kind of in a pinch at this point now, not having a single energy on the board that he's been working so hard to get here. Let's see how exactly Andrew wants to sequence this.
Yeah, and the tough part about it is that without any energy on board, you need to use the Neo Upper. But if this Dragapult in the active gets damaged, you need to find a second Dragapult and evolve one on your bench. Otherwise, you're putting energy and committing a lot of good resources to a Pokemon that's about to get knocked out anyway. So making sure you put that Neo Upper in the right spot is more helpful to prevent a knockout, but you're going to lose another Dracloak. That's another Recon Directive gone. You're going to need to keep evolving those bench Dreepies, and they're all going to have risky Ruins damage on them.
Still, the energy count for Andrew, even though he's still missing that 1 fire energy, excuse me, he still does have 2 at least in the deck. Just some very unlucky draws that he wasn't able to find everything. And now Andrew going to be sifting out some kind of cards that he doesn't necessarily need to kind of shuffle back into once he uses this unfair stamp. Just kind of looking around. Would love to probably reestablish the Dunsparce here, but maybe doesn't want to waste a Night Stretcher on something like a Dunsparce when the energy hasn't been cooperating with him.
Exactly. He's looking at the fire in the deck left, knows that one is in the prizes, and thinking, please don't repeat those last couple turns. When I need to see a fire energy, put it in my hand. That's another reason to thin that deck out. The more cards you use during these turns, the more you clear your deck of cards that you're not going to need for the late game, the higher your chances of drawing into them, especially that fire energy, right when you need it.
Well, we'll see where Andrew wants to put his damage counters as well, as he is finally going to be able to use Phantom Dive. The big question is, would you like for your unfair stamp to stick a little bit more, just because Pheasantipity is already on the bench for Preston? So if he were to take something like this Dreepy here, which looks like a great target to take, that's going to allow for Preston to draw a couple more cards out of the 2 he will be drawing, and then 1 for draw for turn. Let's see how exactly it's going to go down here. Andrew, 5 fresh cards, finds a Dragapult, also does find a Pokepad as well, could very well use that for the Monkey Dory, as he does see that he has a Dark Energy in hand, but unfortunately already used Crispin actually to automatically attach the fire to the Dragapult, can actually put the Dark into play this turn.
With the Darkness Energy on the Monkey Dory, that's going to put him in a very good position versus Preston, who, though he can get out of this unfair stamp, he needs to attach energy to the Dragapult to attack, which means that's energy that doesn't go on his Monkey Dory, which means that's more damage counter advantage that Andrew has, and a closer shot to winning this all-important top 4 first game.
We can assume we are going to be seeing Phantom Dive, and that is going to be 200 to the active, and then Andrew gets to pick where the 6 damage counters go. I have a feeling this board state is going to be something that we're going to be seeing a lot. So once again, it's going to be Preston, it's going to be Andrew mixing the damage counters around, so Pheasantipity's Flip the Script is not going to be able to be used. No knockouts have technically been taken.
Ooh, I can't believe I didn't see that coming. Andrew making sure that there are no outs to this unfair stamp, and making sure that next turn, whenever Phantom Dive comes out, is going to have plenty of options to take a knockout. Choosing to split the damage counters in this way does mean that an energy on Monkey Dory could move them around, but that's too bad because we're already going to need those energy to attack with Dragapult. There's not many good choices for Preston right now.
Preston, fortunately, did get unfair stamped into a Meowth. That's kind of how it works. You think that unfair stamp is, going to brick your opponent. Sometimes it does, or sometimes it just gives your opponent the out, and that is going to be Meowth EX hitting the bench with that last-ditch catch ability that everyone is seeming to love. And if you were worried about energy on Preston's Dragapult, no worries no longer, because we can assume that Preston wants to go for something like the Crispin, has to start sending the damage counters back, because look at Preston's board here, right? I mean, there's damage counters on the Dracloak, the Dreepy, and that's actually going to be a concession because Preston sees the writing on the wall. I mean, because Andrew has that Monkey Dory set up already, that's just going to be sending the damage counters to and fro here. Andrew Hedrick, after not being able to find fire energy for, 3 turns, is going to take that game 1.
Especially with that Crushing Hammer heads flip, that was extraordinarily relevant. Had that not happened, Preston might not have scooped the game so early, might have played it out, might have kept going, maybe found a way to get those prizes. He's not called Andrew Tailsrick, he's called Andrew Hedrick. That's why he flipped heads on the Crushing Hammer.
Oh, I'm going to have to boo you for that one.
That's your choice.
Small boo.
That's your choice.
Regardless, though, that was a really great showing from Andrew. It's so unfortunate from Preston, though, right? Because Preston has the right idea with getting the Duskulls ready to go, but the thing is, when they're both in the prizes, right, you don't see any, much more search than just a Pokepad here and there. You can't really get that full kind of gourmet buffet of the Dragapult board, and Andrew had it beautifully. I mean, unfortunately for Preston, wasn't able to get things going, but Andrew showing what the power of 3 Recon Directive in play with that Dracloak could do.
Ideally, the ghost types are going to come out of the shadows for Preston this game.
Hopefully.
We're going to find out what he gets off those first 7 cards. And I'm watching very carefully those 6 prizes because this could mean make or break for Preston depending on how it all plays out.
Yeah, it is match point technically for Andrew. One more win would take him into the finals here at Los Angeles Regionals here. No mulligans to be resolved, so let's go on ahead and see the prize cards here as our players are going to be setting them out very shortly. But still, I mean, a great game 1. Let's see if game 2 is going to be giving us something to work with. And hey, there's that dust goal.
Yeah, finally got it in the active this time. Although you don't quite always want it in the active. You might prefer it on the bench, and then you can use it when the time is right. So at the moment, it's just going to be Andrew setting up first. That means Preston chose to go second.
See how exactly Andrew is going to be able to get his board set up. 2 Dreepy is a really great start. You want the energy attachment the most out of anything here, right? So Ultra Ball is going to be the option. I didn't get to see the hand too closely here, but Ultra Balling away a Dragapult and a Lily's Determination for your first deck search here. And as we are going to bring up the prize cam so we can show you at least Andrew's side, that 1 copy of the Dunsparce, 1 copy of Pheasantipity being in the prizes, not my favorite thing, especially when he was able to sift through the deck so much thanks to Runaway Draw. Didn't get to see flip the script. It feels like sometimes now Pheasantipity feels like more like a liability than a necessity in some decks. But 1 copy of the Psychic being prized, a Buddy Poffin, 1 Dracloak always to note, and a Boss's Orders, nothing too crazy.
Right. After that Budu in the early game, it looks like he's choosing to play more carefully, cautiously around it so that first turn he gets the option of using a supporter, using as many items as he wants, and a supporter getting more items out. So when you talk about Pheasantipity being able to find items, that may not be this first turn, but later in the game, those 3 cards you draw can make the difference for setting up a combo or walking it back and going right back to the audience to watch the finals. Preston does not want that to happen and is instead going to do everything possible to maximize his chances of a good setup.
Andrew just noting down his prizes in his first deck search here. Plenty of time in your top 8 matches. You do get a good old 75 minutes to get a best of 3 done, which is more than enough time, it feels like, to really kind of find everything through. But regardless, so Andrew is going to be Ultra Balling for Budu. Doesn't exactly feel great, so we could probably assume that there's no Buddy Poffin in hand. But at least having 2 Dreepy, that feels a lot better than just having 1.
Yeah, and those Ultra Ball discards could be relevant later, particularly with the way Night Stretcher works. Choosing to put the Dragapult down means you may need to use a Night Stretcher for it later. You could argue that's creating more outs to get your Dragapult at the key moment, or you could say, no, that's turning away your energy when you may need them. So Andrew's a pretty good player at figuring out how to sort these resources out, so I wouldn't be scared at all if I were Andrew in this position, especially with a Budu and 2 Dreepy in play. Going first, that's not a bad combo.
Well, that's a great top deck, but did also have it in hand. Lily's Determination, because there's nothing in that hand for Preston. And I mean nothing at all. I believe there was a Drac Cloak and a couple of supporters there, but gotta see Dreepy, so it's gonna be up to these 8 cards that's going to allow for Preston to hopefully find a Buddy Poffin, or honestly just be finding these Dreepies as well here. Will be able to, if he's able to retreat this Duskull, get into Budu this turn and Itchy Pollen, and that could be a big trouble for Andrew here, but I believe the only search I'm seeing in the hand is an Ultra Ball. Oh, it does see 1 Dreepy at least.
I was going to say that's tragic, but having at least a Dreepy and an Ultra Ball means you're not behind Andrew in any circumstance. You just happen to have a Duskull in the active, whereas you might prefer a Budu. There's also the world where Ultra Ball doesn't search for the Dreepy that you may be, thinking you need, and instead goes for some kind of disruptive plan. Like there's the Budu right there. It's the beautiful full art one. Could choose to go for the Budu.
Might have to in this case, right? Needs time to re-establish the board. As we take a look at Preston's prizes, no Buddy Poffin in the hand, and that's because one of them is in the prizes, but also that Monkey Dory is in the prizes as well. There are 2 in Preston's list, so I'm not too worried about that. It just seems like these Dracloaks want to spend a little bit of time in the prizes. 1 Dreepy not being available is kind of hurting, but that copy of Judge also there, not great.
There's a very scary potential outcome where if you only have 1 Dreepy on the bench, all it takes is an immediate evolution and attachment to board wipe you from having no Dracloak, no Dragapult next turn, and now all of a sudden you're a turn behind your opponent, maybe even 2 turns behind. Preston already had to scoop up his cards for the first game, does not want to repeat that performance, and is choosing to put 2 Dreepy down. Very smart move to make sure that the bench is full of opportunities for the next turn when Dracloak come into play.
This is so interesting because we saw Preston use the dark energy attach and then use a whole night stretcher to retreat into Dreepy out of all things here. Does, fortunately, compared to Andrew's 2, does play a third here, but that's a resource down. You really got to think about it. Andrew, though, back on his side, will have Drakcloak and a Lily's Determination as well, so a fresh 8 cards for Andrew as well. Hopefully wants to draw into those Buddy Poffins, Pokepads, because Andrew's not under item lock anymore at all.
Yeah, never has been. Looks like Andrew is going to get those 8 cards still. You gotta love when Lily's Determination gives you a full hand of cards. It's very rare that a supporter gives you 8 cards. Lily's does it.
No Drakcloak here. Not even a way to get it in the hand, too. Let's see what the Recon Directive will give. We'll give a Dragapult at least for next turn for what's going on in the active here. But I'm still not seeing too much. The attach for turn might have to retreat into this Budew. Does at least guarantee with Crispin in hand that Andrew would be able to get back into a Dragapult, and the Monkey Dory as well here too, hitting the bench. But if I'm looking at Preston's board, maybe just sacrificing this energy, going back into Budew is the safest play.
This may be scary for Preston, but this time Duskull is available, so that could mean a Dusclops or a Dusknoir this turn. That could change the state of the game. A Dusknoir could knock out the Drakcloak or any Dreepy, or even the Monkey Dory, whereas a Dusclops could get rid of the Budew, creating a pathway to use perhaps the Neo Upper Energy for an immediate attack. Just depends on what resources are able to be found off of this Lily's Determination. I think Preston wants to get those prices going as soon as possible, considering this board state.
Looking also at the list, and just because the players were also able to see each other's list before this match began, I think it's really smart that Andrew went back fully into Budew here, because Preston does play 3 copies of Rare Candy as well here. So could very well see something like a Rare Candy Dragapult and then Meowth for last-ditch catch for a Crispin, and then things could easily go way out of rye for Andrew here. So smart to just use Budew to keep stacking up these options here. And now it's going to be another Dreepy down. But am I seeing a way to Drakcloak? I don't think so.
Ooh, bumping the stadium first, making sure those damage counters don't get played. Made sure to check the state of the field before adding more Pokemon. Now trying to figure out where that energy is going to go, choosing to, pass. Wasn't there a Drakcloak in hand? No evolution?
I believe it was a Dragapult, unfortunately, and this is exactly what Andrew wants to see with Crispin and Dragapult EX already in hand here. Probably would also like to solidify the board just a little bit more with some more Drakcloaks here as well, but is able to find at least the Psychic Energy here. Is keeping track of the amount of Night Stretchers that he's seen too here. But still, once again, I mean, look at this. Recon Directive into Drakcloak, into Recon Directive into Drakcloak. Feels pretty good here if you're Andrew. And I'm wondering if that Crushing Hammer is going to come into play. Let's see if he's able to flip heads. And
it's off the table, come on.
But I'm going to assume that it's heads because Preston going to remove that Fire Energy. This is a massive advantage for Andrew.
Having no energy in play again is a situation Preston is familiar with, but these are the semifinals. This is top 4. You can't have these situations if you want to make it to finals. Come on, Preston, show us that Neo Upper Energy, show us that Dragapult, show us that Rare Candy. Get back in this game. You could do it.
It might be the only way that Preston gets back into this game, as we see Crispin as the supporter for turn here, going to be able to attach the Fire Energy automatically to one of these Drakcloaks and bring that Darkness Energy into hand. Won't be able to power up both a Dragapult EX and a Monkey Dory, like everybody's dream scenario will be. We know that Andrew does have the Psychic Energy in hand, so honestly, this is going to be a great turn for Andrew, going to be able to take out the threat of the Duskull as well here. Just has to decide if he wants to just start stacking the damage counters. But it's pretty easy to see, you know what, I'll take my 2 prizes. You find your Drakcloaks, and then we'll talk.
Duskull is Dunskull. It is in that discard pile, and it could come back with a Night Stretcher, but we just used the Night Stretcher to retreat. So come on, Preston, show us something else. There's Pheasantipity. Pheasantipity will be able to draw more cards. We'll be able to maybe fix this board state. Ooh. That could be something.
Well, it is at least a Meowth EX for using that ability last ditch catch here. where Preston's going to be able to pick a supporter of choice. And in these scenarios, sometimes players will kind of go back and forth on whether they want to disrupt their opponent more or get themselves back into the game a little bit more. If I'm Preston, it's going to be that Lily's Determination. Preston hasn't taken any prize cards yet. So my goodness, I actually think Preston is going to go for using Lily's Determination into trying to find rare candy, has to find the rare candy and the Dragapult here to get himself back into the game. Doesn't have Direct Cloak readily available here, so it's going to be these 8 cards from Lily's Determination and then 3 more cards from Fezandipity EX. Flip the script. Can he get it off of 11 cards?
Very high-risk play to attach that Neo Upper Energy before you have any certainty that there's even going to be a Dracloak, let alone a Dragapult going onto your side of the field. If this does not connect with this 11-card combo, Preston may not have the stamina to get through the rest of this game. But we're going to find out.
2 cards, Rare Candy and Dragapult here. Finds the Ultra Ball, so that's the Dragapult, and there's the Rare Candy, 2 of them there. So it will be Preston being rewarded, essentially, for using Lily's Determination here. Very scary, though. Does also have a Pokepad as well to start getting these Dracloaks online too, and still does have access to Fezandipity's Flip the Script. So that feels a lot better for Preston, but look at all the things he had to do to get there as well. The thing is, though, you're going to be sending damage counters on over to Andrew's side, and Andrew's going to get that Monkey Dory up and running next turn.
There's another sequencing puzzle here, which is, do you use the Ultra Ball right now to go get the Dragapult you need, or do you start using Fezandipity and the Dracloak to get those pieces? Looks like instead of having to discard resources using the Ultra Ball, going to preserve those for later turns. Look at this. We saw it coming.
We did see it coming. The only thing I'm a little worried about is Fezandipity being there, because that's another easy way for Andrew to kind of hold down this 2-2-2 prize race, especially because Monkey Dory is going to have that Darkness Energy next turn. Let's see where he's going to spread the damage, because no matter what, there's going to be a damage counter left somewhere here, and Preston kind of shaking his head too, saying, you know what, it's going to be sent back to me anyway, but choosing to leave Badu still on the bench, as now it's back on over to Andrew's side. Let's see what this Recon Directive gets him.
I really love this play because it creates a scenario where Preston is guaranteed some kind of option to knock out next turn using a Phantom Dive, because it's not like Andrew's going to evolve both of the Dracloak. That means there's no Recon Directive. Budu's not getting any more HP anytime soon, so choosing to put those damage counters split evenly means that next turn, whether or not it's on this Dragapult or on this Monkey Dory, Phantom Dive is going to have a bench target ready to go to take the rest of the damage. Also, choosing to split it 3 and 3 means that maybe a second Monkey Dory could unfortunately move both of those damage counter sets off, but that requires 2 energy attachments, so that means another Crispin, or it's not like E-Switch is a common sight in these decks.
You never know. I mean, if I'm Preston, I am horrified of the potential of something like a Crushing Hammer or an Enhanced Hammer. Unfortunately, Andrew's not playing Enhanced Hammer here, but that would be insane going into Preston's side. But the thing is, Andrew is playing for his A-Spec, not playing Neo Upper Energy, but actually playing Unfair Stamp as well. So, I mean, could potentially see that come down the line, and with not a lot of search here, only has the Dracloak to really kind of sift through the deck. We could very well see Andrew decide to use Monkey Dory and move one of the damage counters off the Dracloak onto Preston's Dracloak, and then anticipate some sort of Unfair Stamp for next turn when this damage Dragapult goes down.
Yeah, if a Hammer comes up to follow that combo, I don't know what Preston's supposed to do in that scenario, because the Neo Upper's been used. So we just got to hope that Andrew does not get a Hammer, does not flip heads on a Hammer. Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot. He flipped heads on all the hammers.
Yeah.
That's not, she's just going to get it. Come
that's
on,
that's the Andrew Hedrick difference, honestly, feels like. I don't think I've seen him miss at all.
No, he had not on strike. The only one we didn't see was one he still flipped heads on.
Yeah, that's very true. See what the Ultra Ball does bring. He might want to also evolve one of these Dracloaks up into the Dragapult, so that if Andrew decides to attach energy onto Monkey Dory and then use something like Boss's Orders next turn, can easily kind of slide into Crispin and then be able to use more damage counters to damage this Dragapult into the active here. So let's see how exactly he wants, which one he wants to evolve. No matter what, one of them is going to be cleared of all damage, and Andrew will be attacking with this damage pult in the active.
Right, and the other effect of doing it this way, by splitting the damage counters up, is no unfair stamp got triggered. There's not going to be any Pheasantipity coming down from Andrew. Those can all be done later when Budu is a very easy to knock out target using any Phantom Dive, just so long as there's one still available. Preston is going to have to make sure that more energy comes down, though, because this is a very vulnerable board for Preston.
Unfortunately for Andrew, not going to have access to that Pheasantipity because it's at the top of the prices. So still, though, maybe doesn't want to take away necessarily his search that he has with Recon Directive. But that one Dunsparce there is definitely another key to victory here for Andrew, who dominated game 1 so well and now is perfectly set up here in game number 2. Going to use the Night Stretcher now, probably for that psychic energy, going to guarantee a little bit more safety here and just going to say, you know what, maybe it's boss time, maybe it's just going to be attacking and stacking these damage counters all the way across.
Andrew is very close to taking 4 prizes here. That boss's orders onto perhaps the Meowth would be enough. Ooh, Pheasantipity.
Yeah, we can expect this because Andrew does have the unfair stamp in hand, right? So he could either move the damage counters with Monkey, or he can't even do it because he's already attached for a turn. So instead, Andrew's actually just going to potentially set up game right here, right? Pheasantipity is going to eat 200 damage here and then start stacking it on the Meowth as well. So no knockout has been taken, but look at all the damage on the board. And now Preston has to get this Pheasantipity out of the active with an energy.
Yeah, and that's another energy that can't be attached to the Dracloak. That's another way that's going to prevent Preston from building up a board state capable of handling what Andrew's dishing out. The other thing, too, is by putting the damage counters on the Meowth instead of maybe setting up an easier prize on a Dracloak or a Dreepy, is that with another Phantom Dive 6 damage counters, a Monkey Dory, and then I believe a second Monkey Dory, that would be enough for the KO.
Yeah, would only need to find Crispin at that point, essentially for game. But still, I mean, Andrew is starting to kind of close the walls in on Preston here. Preston, fortunately, is finally going to be able to get a second Dracloak here as well to be sifting through. And now it's really up to Preston to be finding one of these copies of Judge here to at least make Andrew work for it just a little bit more next turn.
But doing so is also going to make Preston's hand even smaller. There's no Pheasantipity to work with to draw 3 cards off flipping the script. Preston has to move very carefully these next couple turns to not get rid of even his own options. Choosing to do the Recon Directive before any Judge or shuffling is also going to mean those 4 cards are what he has to work with. So make the most of this big hand while you have it until you don't anymore.
I don't see a Judge in the hand. Is that a second Meowth in hand potentially to go grab the Judge? Could also... well, there's the energy attachment, but the question is, did kind of flash boss's orders as well at the top of the hand? Could be going for something like another damaged Dragapult, stacking more.
Okay, looks like the plan here is very simple. Don't get knocked out. Don't lose 4 prizes.
Yeah.
If that can happen, Preston has a way to wiggle back into this game because he's going to take that big knockout. This is why Andrew insulated his his strategy last turn by putting the Psychic Energy on the Dragapult instead of moving with the Monkey Dory.
Well, we are heading into potentially what could be the last turn of this set here. Boss's orders and a fire energy is what Andrew needs to take 4 prizes this turn. Has the boss's orders, does also have the Pokepad as well, so could find the Dunsparce, excuse me, or it's already in hand here. So Runaway Draw has to provide this energy here.
I think debating whether to thin the hand or not. There's an Ultra Ball. There's only 3 cards in hand. There's a Pokepad and an Ultra Ball. You could use the Ultra Ball to search for 1 card. If Meowth were available, that would be a good choice, but that may not be something that he sees right now. Okay,
3 cards. Is it Fire Energy? He couldn't find it last game, but he can find a Crushing Hammer, but unfortunately, that's not going to be it. Pheasantipity is in the prizes, at the top of the prizes. That's the only search that Andrew really kind of had available at this point here. Might actually be able to kind of survive with this. Could also, if he doesn't want to put forward his Dragapult, could boss's orders the Pheasantipity and take it out with Itchy Pollen, thus leaving the Budu in the active.
That's why when he was trying to figure out who to promote, Dragapult has free retreat, but so does Badu. Kind of had a shuffle for a moment to figure out which one to do it.
Crushing Hammer will be heads as well, and of course the only target is going to be that Neo upper energy as well here. Andrew adding insult to injury as well, and now it is all up to if he wants to just stack this damage with Jet Headbutt, or if he's going to go back in and just use Itchy Pollen again.
I'm surprised he didn't thin the deck out with Poképad before. Looks like he's going to go for something else, though. Maybe a second Monkey Dory?
At this point, I think Dunsparce is also a safe bet. Speaking of Monkey Dory, Preston doesn't have a Monkey Dory on his side, so he wouldn't be able to move damage counters over. So Dunsparce might be a safe option here at this point. But it's so unfortunate for Andrew. I feel like he's across both of these games, it's just all he needs is one fire energy to really get going. He could have had game right then and there. Unfortunately, not going to be the case that we're in. So just has to find a way to get on his stability, I guess is the best word, back to his board.
There's plenty of it in the deck, so I would love to see the Itchy Pollen play you were talking about with Badu.
Feels safe enough.
Problem is, once you do that, you've committed your boss's orders. You're going to need to draw another one, and unless that Ultra Ball grabs Dunsparce and you get it off the Dunsparce, that's one less boss you have available to close out your last two prizes. So that may not happen, but I'm hoping to see it. I think it would be a great play.
It would also keep Preston technically under item lock here as well here. So let's see how exactly he wants to handle this. Maybe he does just want to keep and hold the boss's orders until he knows for sure. But boss's orders is coming down here, and it's actually not going to be the Pheasantipity. It's actually going to be the Meowth here. You don't want Preston even drawing remotely close, but speaking of close, that Meowth is getting closer and closer, only 40 hit points left.
That's enough that a single Phantom Dive could knock out both Pheasantipity and Meowth, no matter where they are on the board. So instead of going for the flashy play, Andrew is looking to prioritize that long-term viability, going to make sure there's tons of ways to win the last four prizes, to complete the set, to make it to finals, to become a regional champion again, if at all possible. That's what Andrew's planning. Preston is not going to just let that happen lying down, though. There's a Badu that could prevent the Ultra Ball for the Dunsparce for some other kind of boss play, but is this checkmate on board?
It doesn't feel too good, I'll tell you that much. Andrew also has this really funny play that if he's unable to find a fire energy, could very well find a darkness energy and use Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain and move the damage counters from the damaged Dragapult into the active into Pheasantipity, and then Jet Headbutt Meowth if it's unable to move, which is definitely another route you want to go, but it'll be up to Andrew if he sees it. I think Preston has to get this Meowth out of the active here, and I know he did grab Badu here, but that Judge might be what saves him.
Problem is you have to give up the Psychic Energy to go get it. Ooh, couldn't do it. Had to keep the Psychic Energy, but what are you going to attack with?
Don't pass, man. Don't pass.
I mean, is there a boss available?
I mean, second Meowth at this point makes the most amount of sense, but what do you boss?
I mean, is there anything you can even... I mean, this would be a completely different setup if Duskull were in play, and all of a sudden we're talking Dusknoir could come in, change the math, get rid of the Monkey Dory. Now you've got a Night Stretcher for the Monkey Dory. There's just not enough resources to close this out with too many liabilities that are damaged and full of damage counters to really get anything on your board that can help you in the immediate short term. You
might just have to use the energy, retreat the Meowth, and then bring up the Dragapult with no energy on it at all. So... and that's actually going to be the play, and just saying, you know what, if you got boss's orders and either a fire energy or a dark energy, but okay, moving the Monkey Dory forward.
Have to do it. That means there's no attachment to the fire without Crispin.
That's fair, but once again, it comes down to that play. If Andrew is going to find the dark energy, can use the dark energy to move the damage counters to KO Pheasantipity, but there's the fire energy. The first time he's not looking for it here. Let's see what the Ultra Ball can bring for us here too.
Ultra Ball could grab that to Dunsparce. That's another way to get more cards. That's another way to maybe get a Crispin. And the other thing is that the Crispin doesn't actually need to get a fire energy to attach. It just needs to get two different colors of energy out of your deck. That way you can attach one using the Crispin to Monkey Dory, manually attach the fire energy, and then you're clean. So it's just going to come down to what you get off of these 3 cards to see if Andrew can win this set right now.
And unfortunately, you're seeing what could have been on your screen. Another colorless Pokemon that would have fulfilled that Crispin requirement is the Meowth. That's unfortunately in the discard for Andrew here. So has to rely off of finding it the good old-fashioned way with runaway draw here. And unfortunately for Andrew, it's just not the right, it's not the right color here too. Honestly, even if Andrew was able to attach the dark energy and move the damage counters on over to Pheasantipity, that feels so much better here. But he did at least set up the Duskull, so could be seeing 3 big cards. Crushing Hammer, Crispin as well here too.
Wow.
Is that going to be the game right here and there? He's going to show the darkness energy to move the damage counters over. And that is the handshake. Andrew Hedrick going to go into our finals here, advancing 2-0.
Look at that big smile. That was a very difficult endgame to navigate, and Andrew showed you exactly how to play Dragapult if you're bringing it to your own cups or challenges. Don't go for those flashy plays. Take your time, assemble your final 4 prizes, sometimes even 6 prizes.
Yeah.
But as soon as that board state is set up in the way it was against Preston, it doesn't matter what Preston does. It doesn't matter what resources are available. You have so many different options to take those last 4 prizes, and that's exactly what happened with Crispin instead of a boss being the final essential supporter to get it all done.
It's so tough because we saw Preston on the back foot since the beginning that this set started. No Buddy Pop and having multiple Duskulls prize. Let's take a look at the replays so we can all kind of follow along together about how our first top 4 match, or our top 4 match went here. It was both players, and it was Preston using the jet headbutt here to get rid of the Dunsparce. But look at this, Andrew Hedrick, just flipping heads everywhere, getting rid of all of the energy on the board, and that led to a quick concession. But still, look at this, just over and over and over again. Even took out the Neo upper energy with it as well. But Andrew being able to go into this Dragapult so early, take out the threat of the Duskull as well. It just feels too bad. But then over in this game number 2, we saw the same scenario. Unfortunately for Preston, just couldn't get the Duskull going. Another heads on Crushing Hammer, and there went Neo upper energy.
It was great to see, though, that no matter what the situation, Preston kept finding outs, kept trying to find new Dragapult pieces to get back in the game as fast as possible. Unfortunately, you don't have 2 copies of Neo Upper Energy to do it. Wasn't going to be feasible by the end of that game, especially without Crispin or without access to Meowth.
Yeah, so unfortunate for Preston, but fortunate for Andrew.